What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to part 4 of the 2003 Honda CR85 restoration. If you guys missed the last video, you should go check that out. We got the wheels rebuilt and restored and back on the bike. In today's video, we are going to be getting this engine rebuilt and back together. So here is the engine and all of its pieces. I'm going to be rebuilding this engine completely with a Hot Rods bottom end kit and then a Vertex piston. Here's the old crankshaft. As you can see, it is completely seized up. I've had the crank and all the bearings in the freezer for a couple days now, so we are ready to start installing. So I went ahead and cleaned this left side case half and polished it up. It looks really good now. I got the dowel pins removed, cleaned up the bores, and put some anti-seize on the dowel pins and put those back in there. So this case half is ready. We're going to go ahead and do this one. Alright guys, so I just finished getting my other case half nice and cleaned up. Got it nice and polished up. And next up, I'm going to start installing my new bearings. There you go, just like that. Alright guys, so I got all the new bearings into that crankcase half. We got one more bearing to do, and it's this one. And for this bearing, I'm going to use a bolt with a nut and some washers to basically press that bearing in there, because these ones are always very hard to do. So now that we've got all the bearings in the case halves replaced, next up we're going to start doing the seals. I've already got this left side ignition side crank seal put in. So for the 2003 to 2004 Honda CR85s, this seal needs to be recessed 3 millimeters. The rest of the seals go in flush. And there you go. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more assembly lube in all these bearings and then start installing the transmission. Got all the transmission parts nice and cleaned up, and we are going to get it all installed. Installing these shift forks, you need to pay attention to the markings. You want to pay attention to the marks as if the engine was in the bike. This is the left side, so this one's going to go in first, right here. Center one, that's going to go right there. And then this is the right one, which will go up here. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I got this case half all finished up. I got those two bearing retainers torqued down to 7.5 foot-pounds with some blue thread locker on them. My little baffle piece, I also made a template for all my bolts. That way when I get the case halves together, I can pull the bolt out and put it in its correct spot easily. I also put a little bit of anti-seize on my dowel pins. So now we are ready to install the crank. Make sure that this little rubber baffle doesn't fall out when I put the case on. I put a little grease on there to kind of hold it. Case bolts should be torqued down to 7.5 foot-pounds. So I've got my torque wrench set. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get this stopper arm put on. The straight part of the spring is going to go up against this boss right here. That little groove in the stopper arm is supposed to rest on the spring. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and just keep this finger loose until after we get the drum installed. We got the shift drum cam. It has this little groove on it. That groove is supposed to line up with the pin on the shift drum itself. Then this bolt's going to get torqued down to 20 foot-pounds. So now we can go ahead and tighten this one up to 7 foot-pounds. Next up is the guide plate with these spring-loaded prawls in there. You want to be careful not to let this come apart. And we're just going to go ahead and gently lay it in there and try to line up these holes. Guide plate, just like that. And then you want to be careful, there is a washer on the bottom of this spring. You do want to make sure you have that washer on there. And we're going to go ahead and push this shift shaft in. We're going to get this little kickstart guide plate in there. And then on the Kickstarter assembly, I don't know if you can see, but there are two little dots right there. And those two dots need to line up with this piece and the Kickstarter in order for the kickstart mechanism to work properly. We got the spring right here. That's working. Next up, I've got the Kickstarter idler gear. If you notice, one side is smooth on the back, and then the other side has these two grooves in it. Correct way is with the two grooves pointing up. Make sure that meshes up. There we go. Spins nice and smooth. All right, and then before I forget, I'm gonna get my new water pump bearing installed here. All right, guys, so it is about a week later, and as you can see, I've got a bunch of parts. New water pump drive gear to replace the old one with the broken tooth. Got a new primary gear nut, and then I got the spring conical washer that I was missing. I also went ahead and ordered up some new reed pedals because the old ones are fairly worn. And then I also got a brand new tusk shifter to replace the old crusty stock one. Washer going on. And the spring washer, as you can see, it does say out on it, so you want to make sure that's facing up. Then we got the new nut going on. And this is going to get torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. And as you can see, when I try to tighten it, everything spins. In order to actually tighten down that nut, what I did was I got one of these old cylinder base nuts right here, and what you're going to do is you're just going to wedge that right in between your primary gear and your clutch basket gear, and that is going to lock it up so that you can tighten it. Alright guys, so I got the cover all nice and cleaned up. Now I'm going to go ahead and start rebuilding it. We're going to start with the water pump. Right, let's go ahead and get the new water pump bearing installed. I'm going to put the words facing down. So on a seal, there are two sides. There is a flat side, and then there is a hollow / cupped side like that. So general rule of thumb is that the cup side always faces against the fluid that you're trying to seal or the pressure you're trying to seal. So on this water pump right here, smaller seal is the oil seal. This one is going to get faced with the cup side inward because it's sealing the transmission oil from getting into the cooling system. And then this one is going to go in like this with the cup side facing out because it is sealing the coolant from getting into the transmission oil. Alright guys, so I do have some unfortunate news. So I did have to go ahead and order up a new clutch center bolt because that one I did round off. It was already a bit rounded off to begin with, and I kind of rounded it off even more. I don't really feel comfortable with running that bolt on there because I don't know if I got it tight enough because it was just my socket was slipping on it. So I'm going to go ahead and order up a new one of those. That way when I get that, I know I can actually tighten it down for sure because it'll be a brand new bolt. And I also need to get a washer for my flywheel mount. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get the top end fully buttoned up and done. That way all I'm waiting on is the couple hardware pieces for the clutch side and for the ignition side. And then once those things come in, we will get that buttoned up on the engine. All right guys, so I just got done washing my cylinder with some soap and water and a brush. I got most of the crud off of there. It's actually looking pretty clean. So I'm gonna go ahead and start polishing it with my wheels, and we'll see how good I can get it, but I'm gonna try to get it as good as I can. Alright guys, so the cylinder is all nice and polished up and clean. I also went ahead and lightly honed it out and got some nice 45-degree cross hatches going on the cylinder. It looks really good in there. And I just spent about an hour or so washing it until it's clean to where I wipe it up with my oiled up paper towel and it comes out nice and clean. Just put the brush on the end of the drill and passed it through up and down, and that got it nice and clean. So the cylinder is nice and cleaned up, restored and polished, and ready to go for that new top end with the cross hatching. All right guys, we've got our fresh top end set up here on the bench. We're going with a Vertex piston. This is a standard bore 47.45 millimeter Vertex piston. Nice freshly honed out cylinder. The head and the cylinder both polished up. Got all the new hardware, as well as all the top end gaskets, top end hardware. And then I'm also going to be installing some brand new Boysen dual stage power reeds. On your base gasket, typically the words will be facing up. So you want to make sure that those letters on the ring are facing up. Go ahead and get this ring into the cylinder. The ring gap should be anywhere from 11 thousandths to 17 thousandths of an inch. All right, ring gap is perfect. We are getting between 13 and 14 thousandths, right in the middle of 11 thousandths to 17 thousandths of an inch. Ring gap is perfect. You want to make sure that your circlip end gap is either facing 12 o'clock, so straight up, or 6 o'clock, straight down. Very slightly pointed away from the opening on the piston. Don't want it pointing anywhere towards this gap because it can cause this clip to actually pop out. Guys, so I finally got that circlip in on the piston. Right, then we'll go ahead and install the ring with the letters facing up. Some anti-seize on these dowel pins. Compress the ring, and you want to make sure you get this on as straight as possible. You don't want to twist it at all. Just like that. Get that on there. There we go. Some fresh hardware going on. I almost forgot this little piece right here. It's the clutch cable support. Don't forget that. Torque spec for these is 20 foot-pounds, so we're going to do that in a nice crisscross pattern. Went ahead and installed my new Boysen dual stage power reeds. Got my reeds nice and torqued down. I got the new gasket on my exhaust manifold as well as the new bolts. So we are getting pretty close to being done with the engine. Obviously the clutch side is going to have to still be apart until I get that new bolt. We're going to be waiting for that. Alright guys, so I got the flywheel on, loosely threaded on the new nut. The engine is pretty much complete. I'm just waiting on those parts. And once we get all that, we can get all that back onto the engine. But for now, the engine is done, and this is where I'm going to leave off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of bringing this engine for this 2003 CR85 back to life all nice and polished up, looking good. In the next video, we are going to be getting that engine back into the frame and getting the bike fully put together and assembled. So with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video, please drop a like. Also, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel and I greatly appreciate it. Drop a comment down below on what you thought about the video or any tips or tricks that you might have for me. I'm eager to learn and hear your guys' thoughts about my videos. But anyways, guys, that's where I'm going to leave off for part 4 of the 2003 Honda CR85 restoration video. I will see you guys in part 5.